These were the most forbidden items that existed during World War II. The rules to carry such items were strictly prohibited for the protection and safety of the troops, and they're not even permitted to carry in today's military due to these reasons or even out of bad luck and superstitions. In today's video, I'll be diving into the surprising items that were strictly prohibited during wartime, why they were banned, and the serious consequences soldiers faced if they ignored these rules. From everyday objects to unexpected dangers, you'll soon see just how important these restrictions really were. First item was personal diaries or books. This was very dangerous for soldiers because if they were caught with this item, it could reveal battle plans, troop positions, or military morale. A single scribbled line could become intelligence gold for the enemy. Still, many soldiers broke the rule because writing was a lifeline, a way to hold on to their humanity and write messages or letters to their loved ones. The next item that was forbidden were cameras. Photography was tightly controlled, and any unapproved cameras could capture images of secret operations, or worse, defeat and death. Governments wanted only propaganda-approved photos reaching the public. Unauthorized photos could destroy morale or expose military weaknesses, which could cripple several regiments. During World War II, many soldiers were tempted to pick up captured weapons, including German Luger, MP-40s, and Japanese rifles, not just as trophies, but as backup firepower. But using enemy weapons was strictly forbidden. Firstly, carrying such weapons could have disastrous consequences, resulting in you getting shot by your fellow side. It was a matter of survival. This was because troops mainly relied on the silhouette of enemies and sounds that echoed in the battlefield, and if you fired the wrong gun, your comrades might mistake you for the enemy. Second, ammunition. Enemy calibers weren't compatible with Allied supplies. Once you ran out, your new weapon became nothing more than dead weight. Third, identification and discipline. Soldiers caught carrying enemy gear risked being seen as spies, looters, or even traitors. Commanders wanted every man uniformed, regulated, and equipped with standard-issue weapons they could maintain and resupply. And finally, reliability. Captured guns often broke, jammed, or lacked spare parts. In the chaos of war, an untested weapon could cost you your life. Have you ever wondered why alcohol was banned during World War II? It wasn't just about cutting down on partying or saving money. There was a very real danger behind it. In the middle of a global war, that could be catastrophic. Soldiers needed to stay sharp on the battlefield, and civilians had to keep society running efficiently. A single mistake could cost lives or give the enemy an advantage. It could even cause fires or explosions due to its volatile nature and could potentially give away positions to enemy lines. Even from a military strategy perspective, limiting alcohol meant soldiers would stay alert and disciplined. If enemy troops were drinking, they'd be slower, careless, and easier to defeat. Controlling alcohol wasn't just about health, it was a tactical move to protect the home front and keep armies ready for action. Fabrics were strictly regulated, and extravagant outfits were often prohibited. So why were these restrictions put in place? The main reason was resources. Fabrics like wool, silk, cotton, and leather were needed for military uniforms, tents, parachutes, and other essential equipment. That meant there was less available for civilians. To make matters worse, imports were disrupted by the war, so everything had to be rationed and used efficiently. Governments introduced strict rules about civilian clothing. In Britain, for example, the utility clothing scheme controlled how clothes could be made. Dresses and suits had limited pleats and pockets, simple designs, minimal buttons, zippers, and trims, a focus on durability over decoration. People even received clothing coupons, which limited how many garments they could buy. Shoes, hats, and even stockings were rationed. Women's heels were lower to save leather, and nylons were nearly impossible to find. These rules weren't just practical, they were political. Wearing simple, modest clothing was promoted as a sign of patriotism and shared sacrifice. Extravagance could be seen as wasteful or even unpatriotic during the war effort. So, fashion during World War II wasn't about trends or luxury. Every stitch, every button, and every yard of fabric mattered. Clothing restrictions were a reminder that even what we wear can contribute to the war effort. Ironically, certain medicines and chemicals were banned or strictly controlled, but it wasn't because they were dangerous in themselves, it was because resources were needed for the war effort. Many medicines, like painkillers, antibiotics, and antiseptics, were in high demand for soldiers on the front lines. Chemicals that might seem ordinary today were also used in weapons, explosives, or military equipment. This meant civilians couldn't freely access them. Some drugs were rationed, and certain chemicals were completely off limits to prevent misuse or to ensure they went where they were needed most on the battlefield, saving lives and supporting the war effort. So, while it might seem strange today, banning or restricting medicines was a strategic decision, ensuring that the most critical resources were reserved for survival and victory above all else. Finally, during World War II, survival didn't come from luck. It came from training, discipline, and teamwork. That's why superstitious items were more than discouraged. They were considered a real risk in wartime. Soldiers were under strict rules about what they could bring with them. Surprisingly, superstitious items were often banned or discouraged by the military. These included things like lucky charms, talismans, amulets, and even certain personal rituals. While these items might seem harmless, military leaders worried they could distract soldiers, lower discipline, or encourage risky behavior. For example, if a soldier believed a charm would protect him, he might take unnecessary risks in combat, thinking he was invincible, or rituals and superstitions could slow down operations if soldiers insisted on performing them before missions. Another reason was uniformity and order. Armies needed soldiers to follow strict regulations, carry standardized equipment, and remain focused on strategy, not superstition. Anything seen as non-essential or potentially dangerous was often confiscated or banned. So while many soldiers carried lucky coins, rabbit's feet, or other charms secretly, the military understood that relying on superstition could cost lives, compromise missions, and reduce effectiveness on the battlefield.